Okay, today what I have to show you is replacing a fill valve. If you listen real close, you can probably hear the fill valve still filling. The flapper's leaking too, so I'll show you the flapper change out also, but also the fill valve's not shutting off all the way. And you can just hear it kind of trickling, so I'll show you how to replace that. Okay, now what you want to do is, it's got all your parts here, you pull this part apart, okay, and it's got this little gasket here. You're going to push out the inner piece, and this piece slips over here, okay, and then our fill tube is going to get looped and over into the fill line. So we're going to trim this to size, like so. Okay, insert this here, and this part goes on right here. Easy enough. Okay, now this little part is for a different type of supply line. If you got those old supply lines, then you can reuse this gasket and use it here, but for my application I don't need that. I've got a newer type of supply line, which is right here. I'm going to use this kind. Anyway, let's take it right here. Show you this here. There's our angle stop and our supply line, which I've got turned off. And back to the tank itself. The way to make this a lot easier is if you have a wet dry vacuum, which I just happen to right here. These little Stinger wet dry vacuums, very nice. Converts to a blower, holds 2 gallons, some of them 2.5 gallons. I forget if this one's 2 or 2.5, but anyway, it works great. I'm going to plug this in. And if you don't have a vacuum, you can just scoop out the water or sponge out the water. You know, you can splash as much as you can down in the flapper hole there. For us, I'm gonna vacuum it out here. Nice thing about vacuuming it out too is to get rid of any sediments that are down in there. You can see a whole bunch of leftover little pieces of gravel and rock and sediments and stuff in there. So we're gonna clean all that out right here with the vacuum. A little noise here. That just makes it a lot easier. Okay, next we're gonna come over here. Okay, got our old style angle stop, and this is the kind that I was telling you about. If you wanted to replace that gasket with, you know, this piece, and you can replace this here and put a new gasket on the inside. Like I said, we're going to be changing our supply line, so I'm going to go ahead and even just take this one off. I really don't like these old metal ones. You can see how bent up it is. It's really easy for it to just, at some point, go on you and cause a flood. Now I'm going to put a rag underneath here. It'll just make cleaning up a lot easier. And of course, a little bit of water is still going to be in this tube here. Okay. And then we're going to take off our supply line. And the nice thing about these repairs with all these Fluid Master parts is they're rated to last 5 years. So replacing everything should give us, in theory, it would give us about 5 years, but reality might be a little bit different, especially if someone's using those tank additives like 2000 Flushes Blue or any of the other type, they will deteriorate the seals a little faster and deteriorate the flapper. Okay. Next we're gonna undo the bolt here that tightens our fill valve on. Easy enough. Okay. Seems like that angle stop's leaking just a tiny bit, but that's okay. It shuts off enough for us to get this done. When you shut these angle stops on and off, if you're dealing with some older ones, it might be time to replace them, but if you didn't want to replace them, then just turn them off pretty fast, and when you turn it back on, turn it on pretty fast, because a lot of times it'll leak in between the on and off position, right from, in between the lines here. Anyway. Okay. So now we've got our pre-assembled fill tube, and we're going to go ahead and take that up to the top, down through the hole. Okay, like so. I'm going to hold it with one hand, and then back to the bottom, we're going to take our new make sure you can see this here. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. Not the most pretty thing, the bottom of a toilet tank, is it? Okay, but anyway, this one's pretty nice. These new fill tubes, you just can hand tighten it. You don't even need channel locks. You can just tighten that on nice and tight by hand. And the same with our new supply line. You just hand tighten it on. You don't even need tools for this. So, and it's left-handed, but that's all right. Little southpaw happening. There we go. Nice and tight, and then we're just going to move down to our fill tube here. Okay. This one I usually just use my Leatherman. And this you just want it a quarter turn past tight, once you get it hand tight. So I'm tight now, and I'll just go a quarter turn past that. Okay, and then we can turn our water back on, which I'll do there at the angle step. Again, doing it fairly quickly in between my on and off position, and now it's filling up nicely. Okay, back down here, what you're going to do is just field test it for any leaks. If you have some toilet paper, that works really well to dry this off so that you can test it easier. And a field test, you're just going to feel with your finger around the different spots here and here. All these different, connections that are potential sources for leaks. So we're good there. Okay. Now back up to our top. Whoops. I didn't put the fill tube on, which I'm sure happens quite a bit. Do this now. Okay, that should go in the fill tube. And we want the lid to not really mess with this, which we're good. The lid's going to sit right across there. There's a couple different ways you can adjust your water level. This screw being one. You can turn that to adjust how far the water level would be. You want to make sure of two things. One, that your water level is obviously below your fill tube, but also over here on your handle to make sure that the water level is below the handle level. And if you had a weak flush, then you can adjust the water level to be a little higher. But again, always staying below the fill tube and below the handle.